welcome to our February release demo. We're very excited to take you through our brand new Customize mode. It's something we've been really excited to launch for some time now, and it'll give all teachers the ability to modify K-8 EngageNY math lessons, as well as grades 6 through 8 Open Up Resources lessons. So it will give you the ability to differentiate for individual student needs a little bit more effectively, leveraging the standards mapping from Student Achievement Partners Coherence Map and some of the logic and resources that we built custom into Teacher Advisor. So before we dive in, just want to make a note about your account. So you'll notice that when you go to log in, that we have a bit of a different look and feel to the login page. And that's because we've changed our user authentication service to a more secure provider. And that's going to be good for everybody, but it does require that everybody, as of February 25th, 2019, to change their password. So all you have to do is click the Forgot Password link, enter your email address that you use for Teacher Advisor. You'll get a reset code and follow the instructions accordingly. It will not take very long at all, but I do want to give you a heads up that you have to click that Forgot Password button in order to be able to access Teacher Advisor as of February 25th. And once you've done that once, you don't have to worry about it again. We are actually going to be removing the login requirement entirely later on in 2019 to give people easier access to the site, so you can look forward to that. But in the meantime, just a heads up that you will need to reset your password in the meantime. So once you have done that and you go home and log in, the site will look very similar to how it's always looked, except for the addition of our Customize mode. Now, there are always two ways to get to our lesson content. You can either click Find a Lesson and Customize here, depending on what your grade level is. As long as you're finding an EngageNY lesson in K through 8 or an Open Up Resources in 6 through 8, you will see the Customize button available. Or you can go through search, and I'll do a search here, adding fractions conceptual understanding at the 4th grade level. You'll see the usual layout of giving ordered results for lessons first, standards, activities, as well as strategies. One thing to point out that's also new with this release is that we've added the mathematical practice standards here. They are all present as you search. They're also present on lesson detail pages. So anytime you want to search by an activity that's related to the math practice standards, Watson is able to interpret which lessons have these mathematical practice standards representing them. So you can certainly type in the text of the MP standards or just do MP 1 through 8, and the results will filter accordingly. But you can also just use these filters if you would like to make sure that you're only pulling ones that are representative of the mathematical practice standard you want to focus on in your classroom. So that's another addition for this particular release. But I want to focus on choosing an EngageNY lesson that you can customize. Again, this is any EngageNY lesson we have in Teacher Advisor. So if you search for something related to adding fractions, conceptual understanding, using manipulatives, hands-on, whatever it may be in 4th grade, and you see an EngageNY result, you can go ahead and click on it. You see this also has the MP standard aligned to it. So this is another difference from the prior release before February 25th. But you see this button here, this Customize button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And it's going to open a new window that we have never had in Teacher Advisor. So you'll notice that it's the same lesson, but it looks a little bit different than if you found it on the EngageNY site or if you just downloaded it as a PDF from Teacher Advisor previously. So we still have the same structure: fluency, application, concept development, student debrief. You'll have the objective and the title up here at the top. That'll be consistent throughout. You'll have the time. That will update depending on what you choose to do in this particular window. And you have the custom description that we wrote for Teacher Advisor EngageNY lessons here. But once you scroll down, it looks pretty different than what you might be used to. Same structure, fluency practices. In this case, there are 3 fluency practices associated with this lesson. And we have our first ability to change something or modify something. If I click this, over any section in a customized mode, you'll be able to add a note. This is really for you. It's going to actually print out in your finished lesson product, but it's designed to help you with facilitation. So if you are teaching this lesson on applying understanding of fraction equivalence to add tenths and hundredths, and you know that you had 2 students in particular who failed the exit ticket from the prior day, You could say, before you go in and teach this fluency practice, make sure to call on Dante and Gabby, who didn't do as well as you were hoped on the exit ticket yesterday, during the share out portion of the fluency practice. Okay, I'll click save. Now this is now going to appear in my lesson printout. So looks good, looks consistent. This is designed to save you time rather than having to export or download into Word, down into PDF, actually just being able to add the note in between the particular section that you're about to teach for this particular lesson. Now that's related to this particular fluency practice here, but let's say you don't have actual time to do all 3 fluency practices. Again, rather than having to export out to do manual deletion, worry about reformatting, you can just click the X that's present over every component part in the customize mode, click delete. You'll notice that after you make any modification, it's going to tell you what modification you made here, just so you can keep track of that. I can also get rid of this one, and we'll just focus on this particular fluency practice. Now, you'll also notice that for virtually every lesson in elementary, but also a number of them for middle school, and this applies to both Open Up and EngageNY, you'll have additional suggestions here. And typically these are suggestions that are geared towards struggling students. So students that might be struggling with the prerequisite standards and prerequisite concepts that this particular lesson is aligned to. We're leveraging Student Achievement Partners Coherence Map and the standards mapping data when it comes to prerequisite standards and postrequisites to suggest fluency practices that might help your students who have struggled with prerequisites get caught up. And this is especially useful if you're in a co-taught setting or if you have an intervention block where you just want to focus on particular students who might be struggling. You can pull in these fluency practices that are going to hit on the prerequisite standard, add those into the lesson. You can use them for your whole classroom or just focus on a subgroup if you would like. I'll show you what it looks like when you save this to your library in a minute here, but you can create multiple copies of the same lesson with different component parts to be more differentiated and targeted at individual needs, or you can add multiple component parts into one lesson and just make different copies. It's really up to you, but you have the discretion and the recommendation logic from Teacher Advisor to be thoughtful about which prerequisite fluency practices you're going to be adding in. And just a note about the user interface here, anytime you see over here we could jump to sections. This is meant to help you easily navigate. Anything that is purple are suggestions from the Teacher Advisor system of things to add. And we'll get into what you can add in a moment. It does depend on which lesson you select, what standards that lesson is particularly aligned to, but every single lesson that you choose will have the ability to add a note, will have the ability to add a problem set suggestion based on either a challenge problem to help your students who are accelerated or to give your students more practice on that particular concept. And then for a very significant portion of lessons, you'll also have the ability to add prerequisite fluency practices, differentiation suggestions from our partners at Understood for All, and videos that you might want to consider for your own facilitation before you teach, or to put in front of students from Khan Academy just to help them have another way of activating their knowledge on this particular concept that you might be teaching. So again, could always add a note above the application problem section for something that might be relevant to my students or my facilitation. I could delete this application problem if I don't feel like I have enough time for it. And now we're getting into the new instruction. So I'm going to see concept development, not something that we recommend getting rid of since this is the meat of your lesson. You have the ability to do so if you just want to use this particular customized mode for student practice problems. We have all the student-facing materials down at the end. So you could certainly do that if you would like, but obviously this is geared towards high-quality lesson planning, and so we would recommend you leaving concept development in. But after that concept development, you'll see another suggestion here. And this is a different section on differentiation strategies. So we're at 4th grade, we're dealing with fractions. Watson and Teacher Advisor are going to suggest this particular differentiation strategy for small group reinforcement, or just for teaching your entire class, giving them more material to go off of for this particular concept. So this is practicing with tools on fractions. I could click on this. I could see the fact that I have a differentiation strategy from understood. It is really designed to give students a hundreds chart so that I can help them with calculation fluency here. So a good supplement for this adding and subtracting of fractions. I can also see that this is the student-facing material with the hundreds chart. I have a multiplication chart here, so it's everything that I would need to add this into my facilitation, into my lesson. I'm going to go ahead and add that. Again, if I preview this, you'll notice a couple of things. One, my note is there. Two, the fluency practice that I added is there in the same format. And if I continue scrolling, I'm going to see this differentiation strategy. This is the teacher-facing handout to allow me to understand how exactly I need to put this into practice and what challenge this is particularly addressing. And it's especially geared towards students who have learning and attention issues, but these are evidence-based practices that are effective for all students as they learn fractions in 4th grade. And then if I continue scrolling, I'll see all of the student-facing materials as well. So you can see there was the exit ticket, there's the handout that's meant to be the student work for the problem set, and then you have the hundreds chart from understood. So it's all there for you. You can make copies more easily, and you're allowing this to take place in one window before you have to export and make those copies, so that it's saving you time in the process. If I continue here, I'm going to see videos that are actually geared towards me, the teacher. So giving me a clear sense of exactly certain instructional moves that I could make as I'm teaching this particular concept. This is a lesson from EngageNY. It's actually going to start at the 12-minute and 40-second mark because this is the particular standard that I've selected, F5. I can also look at additional videos here of in-class instruction on the concept that I'm teaching, again, to give me a clear sense of how I might want to question my students, facilitate the particular activity. And then in a number of cases, we're going to have Khan Academy videos here that are a good way for you or your co-teacher or in an intervention block just to say, hey, I know you've really been struggling with this. Look at this video. It's going to give you an intro into this particular lesson. These are Khan Academy videos that are actually tagged to the particular EngageNY and Open Up resource lessons that you've selected. So it gives you another way to help your students who might really be behind get access to the material of the day, and just a different way of learning, not in lieu of your instruction, but in addition to. So if I go ahead and add this, obviously you're not going to print a video, but you'll at least have this in your preview pane as you're customizing to give you a really hands-on, good example of instructional move you might want to make based on the activity of this particular class, and that's from Inside Mathematics. The last thing that you're able to do here are add problem sets. So in this case, this is a problem set that is similar, but just will allow you to give students some more practice. So I could add this to the particular lesson. I could see this actually a challenge problem here for my students who might be finishing early, who might be accelerated. We're using the illustrative mathematics tasks for this purpose. So I can see this is, again, aligned to the standards, but it's a little bit more of an involved challenge problem that my students might take a little bit longer to solve, but are really going to push their thinking. So I can go ahead and add that. One thing that I failed to mention is that I deleted a couple things and then I added a couple of things. Throughout, the time was updating. So now that I have a 5-minute lesson, I have 16 activities down here. I've added one note and I've added a video. Now, I could click Save, in which case this would save my progress. It wouldn't download anything, but I could come back to it by visiting my library, or I could go ahead and download this particular lesson. Before it does, it's going to show me the preview so that I can see everything as I was showing earlier. If that looks good to me, I can go ahead and download. It may take up to 60 seconds for everything to export nicely, but you can see it's started here, started the download. And once that actually does finish downloading, it's going to be located in my library. And so when I go there, I'm just going to click OK for the sake of your time, you'll see that everything is saved based on the category. So Customize is now getting its own status. You could create multiple versions of the same lesson if you wanted to, and that would appear here. You can organize it into different folders. So if I have, an intervention block on fractions. I could add that folder and add this customized lesson. Done. So this is, again, another way to ensure that what moves you're making in Teacher Advisor are geared towards your particular classroom, gives you a place to revisit your work. We did a lot of user testing around this, and some of the feedback we heard was, it'd be really helpful to be able to come back to lessons that I customized after, I actually implemented them, and then make additional changes based on what my students did or how they performed on a particular part of that lesson. So you can certainly do that. I could pick this up again and actually do another customization based on that. So things are really varied for you in this particular mode. You can see it's pulling up this lesson again. So we always encourage you to just play with this. Again, any EngageNY lesson, K through 8, will be customizable, as will any Open Up lesson in 6 through 8. A really great way to thoughtfully supplement your instruction if you are using a different district curriculum, or even if you are a current Engage user or an illustrative math user in middle school. This gives you the ability to combine resources, high quality providers in one place, to add in some facilitation notes. And this is a function that we're going to continue growing in 2019. So please use it. Let us know what you think. Never hesitate to reach out to tahelp@us.ibm.com, or just click the leave feedback button for additional thoughts, because this is definitely something we're going to be devoting more time to really make it usable, focused at differentiating more effectively, and just giving you more quality content to manipulate effectively and save you time in your classroom. So all the best in the home stretch of the school year, and look forward to hearing from you.